Imagine, just for a moment, a world where gods walk among men. A world where the sky trembles with the sound of thunder and the whisper of fate threads through the lives of mortals and immortals alike. A world ruled not just by kings or heroes, but by beings of immense power, wisdom, and sometimes utter chaos. This is the world of the Aesir Gods. You may have heard their names: Odin, Thor, Loki, Frigg, but these are not just characters in dusty old myths. They are reflections of human nature itself, our courage, our curiosity, our mischief, and yes, our flaws. To truly understand them, we must step beyond the pages of history and into a living, breathing cosmos where every story is a lesson, every battle is a mirror of life, and every choice echoes through eternity. The Aesir are a family of gods from Norse mythology, originating in the cold, rugged landscapes of Scandinavia. Their myths were passed down orally for centuries, long before they were written in the sagas. And what's fascinating is how these stories were never just entertainment. They were guidance, warnings, and moral compasses for the people of the North. Think of the Aesir as a council of cosmic rulers. Each god has a role, a personality, and a story that intertwines with the others in ways that are as complex as a spider's web. They live in Asgard, a realm high above the mortal world of Midgard, connected by the shimmering Bifrost Bridge, guarded by the ever-watchful Heimdall. Asgard is more than a place. It's a symbol of order, power, and the eternal struggle between chaos and stability. The Aesir are a family of gods from Norse mythology, originating in the cold, rugged landscapes of Scandinavia. Their myths were passed down orally for centuries, long before they were written in the sagas. And what's fascinating is how these stories were never just entertainment. They were guidance, warnings, and moral compasses for the people of the North. Think of the Aesir as a council of cosmic rulers. Each god has a role, a personality, and a story that intertwines with the others in ways that are as complex as a spider's web. They live in Asgard, a realm high above the mortal world of Midgard, connected by the shimmering Bifrost Bridge, guarded by the ever-watchful Heimdall. Asgard is more than a place. It's a symbol of order, power, and the eternal struggle between chaos and stability. The Aesir are a family of gods from Norse mythology, originating in the cold, rugged landscapes of Scandinavia. Their myths were passed down orally for centuries, long before they were written in the sagas. And what's fascinating is how these stories were never just entertainment. They were guidance, warnings, and moral compasses for the people of the North. Think of the Aesir as a council of cosmic rulers. Each god has a role, a personality, and a story that intertwines with the others in ways that are as complex as a spider's web. They live in Asgard, a realm high above the mortal world of Midgard, connected by the shimmering Bifrost Bridge, guarded by the ever-watchful Heimdall. Asgard is more than a place. It's a symbol of order, power, and the eternal struggle between chaos and stability. In the chapters to come, we will explore each of these gods in detail. We will walk alongside Odin, the all-seeing Allfather, as he seeks wisdom at any cost. We will ride into thunderous battle with Thor, whose hammer shapes the world itself. We will laugh, cringe, and sometimes tremble at the cunning of Loki, the trickster whose chaos forces the gods and us to adapt. And we will meet the rest of the Aesir, each with their own tale to tell. But before we dive into their individual stories, let's take a moment to understand the world they inhabit, a cosmos alive with magic, prophecy, and danger, where every tree, river, and mountain has a story to tell. Welcome to the Nine Realms. Welcome to Asgard. Welcome to the Age of the Aesir Gods. In the chapters to come, we will explore each of these gods in detail. We will walk alongside Odin, the all-seeing Allfather, as he seeks wisdom at any cost. We will ride into thunderous battle with Thor, whose hammer shapes the world itself. We will laugh, cringe, and sometimes tremble at the cunning of Loki, the trickster whose chaos forces the gods and us to adapt. And we will meet the rest of the Aesir, each with their own tale to tell. But before we dive into their individual stories, let's take a moment to understand the world they inhabit, a cosmos alive with magic, prophecy, and danger, where every tree, river, and mountain has a story to tell. Welcome to the Nine Realms. Welcome to Asgard. Welcome to the age of the Aesir Gods. Long before the mortal world knew the taste of time, there was Odin. He was not simply a god, but a seeker of knowledge, a wanderer through realms, a figure both revered and feared. To call him the Allfather is only to touch the surface, for Odin's essence is as deep as the roots of Yggdrasil itself. He was a god of paradoxes, embodying wisdom and war, cunning and honor, prophecy and deception. To understand Odin is to look into the very heart of the cosmos, to see the threads of fate weaving themselves through all existence. Odin did not receive wisdom passively, he pursued it relentlessly. He hung himself upon Yggdrasil, the great world tree, pierced by his own spear, and stared into the abyss for 9 nights. In that pain, he saw the runes, symbols of knowledge and power, and he sacrificed himself to claim them. Imagine the courage, the audacity of a being willing to endure death to understand the world's secrets. This was Odin. His one eye, the other lost in pursuit of insight, became a symbol not of weakness, but of the immeasurable cost of understanding. Yet Odin was more than a scholar of secrets. He was a strategist, a god whose mind could bend the tides of war. The Aesir looked to him in moments of chaos, not just for guidance, but for foresight. He commanded armies of gods and men alike, but he also sent them into battles they did not fully comprehend, for Odin understood that victory was often born from sacrifice and cunning, rather than brute strength alone. In this way, he was like a cosmic chess master, moving pieces across the board of the 9 realms, each action echoing far beyond the immediate moment. Odin was also a wanderer among mortals, disguised as a humble traveler, a cloaked figure with a staff and a wide-brimmed hat, seeking wisdom wherever it could be found. He spoke in riddles, testing those who crossed his path, revealing truths only to those willing to earn them. Villagers might tell tales of a strange old man appearing by the fireside, asking questions that seemed innocent at first, but carried the weight of fate itself. These encounters were not just stories, they were lessons, teaching that knowledge, like power, is never given freely and is often hidden in plain sight. But Odin's wisdom was not without its darkness. He was a god who understood the inevitability of death, including his own. He foresaw Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, and yet he did not flinch. Instead, he prepared, weaving strategies and setting events in motion to ensure that the order of the cosmos could endure beyond chaos. His eyes, always watchful, scanned the threads of fate for signs, alliances, and betrayals. Even among the gods, his decisions were sometimes harsh, his judgments unyielding, for he knew that mercy without foresight could lead to ruin. Odin's children, too, reflected fragments of his vast and complex nature. Thor, his mighty son, embodied strength and protection, while Baldr represented purity and light. Loki, the trickster, was a thorn in Odin's side, a constant challenge to his plans, yet also a catalyst for events that would shape the cosmos. Through these relationships, Odin's role as Allfather extended beyond rulership. He was a teacher, a manipulator, a guide through the labyrinth of destiny. His interactions with gods and mortals alike were rarely simple, often layered with hidden meanings and unseen consequences. Stories of Odin's deeds stretch across the 9 realms. In one tale, he wrestled with giants in distant lands, not merely with strength, but with strategy, outwitting foes through guile and foresight. In another, he conversed with spirits of the dead in the halls of hell, seeking knowledge lost to mortality. Everywhere he went, Odin left a mark, a whisper of wisdom, a shadow of fate, reminding all who beheld him that nothing in the universe was random. And that understanding came with responsibility, often a heavy burden. Odin was also the patron of poets and storytellers, for he understood that knowledge could take many forms. Words, songs, and sagas carried wisdom across time, preserving the lessons of gods and men alike. He inspired the skalds to weave tales that could outlive empires, that could teach courage, sorrow, and hope long after the events themselves had passed. In this way, Odin's influence is eternal, not confined to the battles he fought or the wars he commanded, but alive in the hearts and minds of those who seek understanding through stories. Yet, for all his power, Odin was deeply human in his desires and fears. He craved knowledge, yes, but also companionship, guidance, and a sense of purpose in a universe where even gods are bound by fate. His solitude, often self-imposed, was both a source of strength and a reflection of the loneliness that accompanies true understanding. Those who followed him could glimpse the burden of wisdom, the tension between insight and isolation, and the cost of seeing what others cannot. Odin's presence is felt in the very fabric of Norse mythology. He is not simply a character to be admired from afar. He is a force that drives events, challenges heroes, and shapes destinies. His story is one of sacrifice, intellect, and vision, illustrating that leadership is not merely power, but responsibility. As we move further into the tales of the Aesir, Odin's influence will ripple through every saga, every battle, every choice, reminding us that wisdom is never free, and that the pursuit of knowledge can be the greatest adventure of all. In contemplating Odin, one cannot help but reflect on our own lives. How often do we sacrifice comfort for understanding? How often do we seek answers at great personal cost? How often do we wrestle with the unknown in the hopes of shaping a better future? Odin embodies these struggles on a cosmic scale, transforming them into stories that have endured for centuries. He teaches us that to seek wisdom is to embrace both the light and the shadow, to accept that knowledge brings both power and burden, and that true understanding requires courage beyond measure. The storm rolls across the sky long before you ever see him. The air grows heavy, the clouds darken, and the distant rumble of thunder warns that the protector of gods and men is on the move. Thor. The name itself feels like a heartbeat of the heavens. The Aesir's champion, the defender of Asgard and Midgard, the one whose hammer could shatter mountains and whose laughter could shake the halls of Valhalla. But behind the thunder and might, behind the roaring battles and endless glory, there is more to Thor than most remember. He was born of Odin, the Allfather, and Jord, the spirit of the earth. Perhaps that is why Thor is a bridge between the heavens and the world of men. His power belongs to the sky, but his heart belongs to the soil. While Odin sought knowledge and strategy, Thor sought strength, simplicity, and action. He was not one for riddles or cunning words. He preferred the honesty of the fight, the straightforwardness of courage. To Thor, the world was a place meant to be protected, not pondered. And in this simplicity, there was purity, a strength born not of arrogance, but of duty. Thor's weapon, the mighty hammer Mjolnir, was more than a tool of war. Forged by dwarves deep in the heart of the earth, it was a symbol of balance and power. It could crush giants, level mountains, and yet, in the same breath, bless marriages and bring fertility to the land. Every time Thor hurled it, lightning split the heavens. Every time he called it back, thunder roared his name. Mjolnir was his voice, his will, and his promise that so long as he lived, Chaos would not consume the realms. But Thor's strength was not measured only in the force of his blows. His greatest power was his heart, his unwavering loyalty, his love for his people, and his unyielding sense of right and wrong. He was the protector not because he was told to be, but because he could not be anything else. The weak, the mortal, the humble, they were his responsibility, and he bore that weight with pride. Yet, like every god of the Aesir, Thor was not without flaws. His temper was as fierce as the storms he commanded. He was quick to anger, sometimes quicker to strike. There were times when his desire for battle blinded him, when pride pushed him into challenges that wisdom might have avoided. But even then, his intentions were rarely selfish. His rage was the rage of a guardian defending his home, his family, his world. And perhaps that is why he remained beloved, both by gods and by men. Among the many stories of Thor, there are those that show him as the ultimate warrior, and others that reveal the warmth beneath the storm. One tale tells of how the giant Thrym stole Mjolnir and demanded the goddess Freya as a bride in exchange for its return. When Freya refused, Thor did not hesitate. Disguised in her bridal clothes, veil and all, he attended the wedding himself, seething beneath the silks, waiting for the moment to reclaim his hammer. When the hammer was finally placed before him as part of the ceremony, Thor tore off his disguise and unleashed his fury, shattering Thrym and every giant in the hall. What makes this story endure is not just the humor or the violence, but the sheer audacity. The god of thunder humbling himself to disguise and deception, all to protect what was his to guard. It is a reminder that even the strongest must sometimes bow to cleverness when duty calls. Another tale tells of Thor's journey to the land of giants, where he was challenged by illusions so powerful that even he could not see through them. He tried to lift a cat, only to find it was the serpent that encircles the world. He drank from a horn, only to learn it was filled with the ocean itself. Each challenge, impossible by design, taught Thor humility, that even a god's strength has limits, and that not every battle can be won by brute force alone. He returned from that journey not defeated, but wiser, with a respect for forces beyond even his comprehension. Thor was not the cleverest of the gods, nor the calmest, but he was their anchor. When Odin's mind wandered the paths of prophecy, and Loki's schemes tangled the threads of fate, it was Thor's hammer that restored balance. His laughter after victory, his booming voice in the feasting halls, his unshakable courage in the face of doom, these were what kept the Aesir grounded. He was their strength when doubt crept in, their shield when the giants rose, their thunder when silence threatened to fall. There is something deeply human about Thor. He was not perfect, he stumbled, he raged, he learned, but he never stopped fighting for what mattered. In that, we see reflections of ourselves, the part of us that stands tall against the storms of life, that protects what we love, even when the odds are overwhelming, that finds purpose not in grand schemes, but in simple acts of strength and kindness. And in the end, even Thor, mighty as he was, could not escape fate. At Ragnarok, the final battle, he would face the world serpent Jormungandr, his oldest and greatest foe. Their clash would shake the heavens, thunder and venom entwined in a dance of destruction. Thor would slay the serpent, but take 9 steps before falling himself, consumed by its poison. In his death, as in his life, there was honor, victory at any cost, courage to the last breath, protection until the very end. When you hear thunder rolling through the sky, it is said to be Thor's chariot, still racing across the clouds, hammer in hand, guarding the realms even now. To the ancient Norse, that sound was not fearsome, but comforting. It meant that Thor was near, watching, protecting. And even today, his legend endures, not just as a symbol of power, but of integrity. He was never made to belong. From the very beginning, Loki moved through the world like a spark that refused to die out. He was clever, beautiful in a strange and shifting way, his words quick and dangerous as lightning. The other gods could never decide if he was a gift or a curse. Odin called him brother once, welcomed him into Asgard, and shared his table with him. But Loki was not of the Aesir by birth. He was born of giants, the child of fire and frost. And that contradiction lived in him always. He had a mind that never stopped moving. While the others fought with swords or thunder, Loki fought with ideas. He could look at a problem and twist it until it became something else entirely. When a bargain threatened the gods, he found a loophole. When a trap was laid for them, he slipped through and pulled the others out behind him. But the same mind that saved them one day could undo them the next. Loki's mischief was a tide. It could clean or it could drown. There was a time when Thor laughed with him. They traveled together, drank together, fought side by side against giants and monsters. Loki's cunning balanced Thor's strength. One made plans while the other snatched them into being. Their friendship was real, but it carried a shadow. Loki liked to test limits, and Thor was a limit made flesh. When Thor's wife, Sif, woke to find her golden hair cut away, it was Loki who had done it for no reason at all except curiosity. Thor's rage was quick and loud, and Loki, half laughing, half terrified, promised to fix it. He ran to the dwarves, those grim masters of metal, and begged them to forge new hair that would grow like living gold. The dwarves made more than that: Odin's spear, Freyr's ship, and Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. The gods forgave Loki that time. They always did. At first, there was charm in him, a warmth that made you forget how dangerous he was. He could make even the Allfather smile, could make the most solemn of the Aesir lean forward to listen. But there was a restlessness in him too. Loki needed to stir things, to see what would happen when he did. He would tell himself that it was only a bit of fun, that he never meant real harm. But the line between mischief and malice grew thin over the years, and he began to cross it without noticing. He could change his shape at will: bird, fish, fly, mare, whatever suited his mood. Once, to save the gods from a wager they could not win, he turned himself into a mare and lured away a builder's stallion. From that strange adventure came Sleipnir, the eight-legged horse that Odin himself would ride. Loki liked to remind the others of that when they cursed his name. "Without me," he would say, "you'd still be paying giants for your walls." But there was a darker side to his cleverness. It came to the surface slowly, like ice breaking apart in spring. He loved to talk, to draw truths out of others, to find the cracks they tried to hide. One night, at a feast, he turned his words into knives and threw them at everyone in the hall. He mocked Odin's wisdom, shamed Freya, insulted Thor. He told truths no one wanted spoken, and when they tried to throw him out, he laughed in their faces. That night, something broke between Loki and the rest of the Aesir. He had children, and even they frightened the gods. With the giantess Angrboda, he fathered three strange beings: Fenrir the wolf, who would one day devour the sun; Jormungandr, the serpent that circles the world; and Hel, half alive and half dead, who would rule over the realm of the lost. Odin, seeing the danger they would bring, cast them out. Loki said nothing then, but the hurt of that betrayal smoldered in him. He loved those children, for they were pieces of him, unloved, unpredictable, and feared. The moment that sealed his fate came with Baldr, the bright and gentle god loved by all. Baldr dreamed of his own death, and his mother Frigg took oaths from every creature and everything to do him no harm. Every creature but one. A sprig of mistletoe was too small to be asked. Loki found it, smiling to himself, and shaped it into a dart. He gave it to Baldr's blind brother, guiding his hand in a cruel joke. The dart flew, struck Baldr in the heart, and the laughter of the hall turned to silence. There was no forgiveness after that. The gods hunted Loki through mountains and seas, through forests and storms. He changed shape again and again, but they caught him at last. They bound him beneath the earth with the entrails of his own son, and above him they placed a serpent whose venom dripped onto his face. His wife, Sigyn, stayed by him, catching the poison in a bowl, emptying it when it filled. But every time she turned away, a drop would fall, and Loki's body would twist in agony, shaking the ground itself. They said that was where earthquakes came from, the writhing of the trickster in his chains. He waits still, the stories say, until the day the bonds break, and he rises again at the world's end. When Ragnarok comes, Loki will stand against the gods he once called family. His children will fight beside him, and the skies will burn. It is a terrible vision, but it feels inevitable, as though every joke, every lie, every act of rebellion has been leading to that one last storm. And yet it is too simple to call him evil. Loki was chaos, yes, but also change without him. Asgard might have grown still and lifeless. His tricks brought the gods their greatest weapons as well as their deepest wounds. He was the reminder that nothing lasts forever, that even in the halls of the divine, there must be room for doubt and for movement. He was the question that kept certainty from turning into pride. When we speak his name now, it is often with a mixture of fear and fascination. We recognize something of him in ourselves, the part that rebels, that tests rules, that asks why when told to obey. Loki is that spark inside us that refuses to stay quiet. He is the restless thought, the uneasy laugh, the truth that slips through cracks no matter how tightly they are sealed. He is the storm that clears the sky. Even bound in darkness, Loki's story moves through time. It reminds us that creation and destruction are never far apart, that every act of defiance carries both danger and possibility. The gods may have cursed him, but they could never erase him. His laughter lingers in thunder. His shadow flickers in every flame that refuses to die. Frigg moves through Asgard with a grace that silences the hall. Where others shout, she listens. Where others act in haste, she waits. She is not the kind of power that roars across the sky, like Thor's thunder, or twists the world like Loki's mischief. Hers is the quiet strength that binds the gods together. Frigg, wife of Odin, queen of Asgard, mother, seer, and keeper of secrets. She is the still heart of the storm. To look at Frigg is to see calm in motion. Her eyes hold the knowledge of things that have been and things that are yet to come. And though she knows much, she reveals little. She sees the future, but she does not speak of it, not even to Odin. This silence is not cruelty. It is love sharpened into restraint. For what could be more painful than knowing the future of those you cherish and being powerless to change it? She carries that burden every day, her composure unbroken, her sorrow hidden behind serenity. In the great halls of Asgard, Frigg's presence is a reminder that power does not always wear armor or wield weapons. She rules beside Odin not through fear or command, but through wisdom and understanding. When disputes rise among the gods, it is often Frigg who smooths the edges, who brings sense where pride might otherwise rule. Her counsel is gentle but firm, her words few but weighted with meaning. Even Odin, who roams the world seeking knowledge, returns to her for the kind of wisdom that cannot be found in runes or prophecy. The wisdom of empathy, of patience, of love. She is the goddess of home and family, the one who keeps the hearth burning when the gods march to war. To the mortals of Midgard, she is both comfort and guidance, a symbol of devotion and care. Women prayed to her for strength, for clarity, for the courage to protect what they loved most. And though she dwelled among gods, Frigg understood human pain in a way few deities did. Perhaps that is why her story is among the most heartbreaking. When her son Baldr began to dream of his death, Frigg's heart trembled. Dreams were not idle things in the 9 realms. They were whispers of fate. She could not bear to lose her shining boy, whose very presence brought light to Asgard. So she traveled across the world, seeking promises from all things that they would never harm him. She spoke to fire and water, metal and stone, beasts and plants, and each swore an oath. It seemed Baldr was safe from every danger imaginable. Only one small plant, mistletoe, so soft and unassuming, was overlooked. It was too harmless, Frigg thought, to cause harm. For a while, peace returned. The gods, in their joy, began to test Baldr's invulnerability, throwing spears, stones, and arrows at him, all bouncing harmlessly away. They laughed, believing him untouchable. Frigg watched, her heart light for the first time in ages. But then Loki saw the flaw. With cruel cunning, he shaped a dart of mistletoe and placed it into the hands of Baldr's blind brother, Hother, guiding his aim. The dart flew, struck, and Baldr fell. In that moment, the light of Asgard dimmed. Frigg's cry carried across the realms. The grief of a mother is a sound that no god, no creature can bear, and hers was the deepest sorrow of all. She begged the others to bring her son back from the underworld, promising that every being in existence would weep for him. And so they did. Gods, giants, mortals, even stones shed tears. But one being, a giantess in Hell's domain, refused to cry. Some say it was Loki in disguise. Because of that single refusal, Baldr remained in the land of the dead, and Frigg's hope withered. Yet even in mourning, Frigg did not lash out. Her pain became silence, her love a wound she carried with dignity. She did not curse fate or strike against those who wronged her. Instead, she endured. That endurance made her formidable. She became a living reminder that not all strength is forged in battle, that some strength comes from simply standing in the aftermath of loss and choosing to continue. Odin, for all his might, could not comfort her fully. Even he who saw the threads of fate could not untangle this one. Between them hung a quiet understanding. He knew that she had seen this end before it came, that she had carried the knowledge of it and borne it alone. Their love was deep, but built on the acceptance that both saw too much of the world's sorrow to ever live in simple happiness. Frigg's power lies in what she represents. To the Aesir, she is the mother who holds Asgard together when the gods quarrel and when destiny darkens their hearts. To mortals, she is the whisper in the home, the protector of families, the patient watcher who endures pain and transforms it into strength. Where Odin's wisdom is vast and far-reaching, Frigg's wisdom is intimate, the kind that understands the quiet corners of love and loss. Sometimes, when the skies over Asgard are still, when no thunder rumbles and no laughter fills the halls, it is said that Frigg walks alone beneath the stars, her thoughts drifting toward her lost son. Her tears fall as gentle rain upon Midgard, blessing the earth, a mother's sorrow turned into life. The mortals below may never know her name, but they feel her presence, the soft, unseen comfort that tells them they are not alone in their grief, that even in divine realms, hearts break and love endures beyond death. Frigg teaches that love is both a gift and a burden, that foresight can be as heavy as fate itself, and that silence can hold more power than thunder. Her story is not one of conquest or adventure, but of constancy. In a world of gods and monsters, where strength often shouts, Frigg reminds us that sometimes the greatest strength is found in quiet endurance, in holding the world together when everything else falls apart. Baldr was the light that softened even the hardest corners of Asgard. Where Odin was wisdom and Thor was strength, Baldr was purity made flesh, the quiet joy that lived between thunder and silence. When he walked through the golden halls, laughter followed him like a melody, and even the walls seemed to glow a little brighter. He was beauty and grace, not in the vain way of mirrors, but in the way sunlight falls through the clouds after a long storm. Every god and goddess loved him. Every creature that beheld him felt peace. Baldr was the son of Odin and Frigg, the living symbol of all that was good in the world the gods had built. He was brave, kind, and just, but beyond all these virtues, he was beloved. His voice calmed anger, his presence quieted fear. Even those who envied him could not hold the feeling for long, because his goodness was disarming. He made others want to be better. But the brighter a light burns, the deeper the shadows it casts. And the gods soon learned that even the purest heart cannot escape the weight of destiny. It began with dreams. In his sleep, Baldr saw his own death again and again. Visions of darkness swallowing the light, of fire and ruin, of the world weeping in silence. When he woke, the fear clung to him like frost. He spoke to Frigg of what he saw, and though she comforted him, she felt dread in her own heart. The dreams were too vivid, too heavy with the scent of prophecy to ignore. Frigg had seen such signs before, and she knew that fate was rarely merciful. Determined to protect her son, she went out into the worlds and asked every living thing, every element, every object to swear an oath not to harm Baldr. From fire to stone, from iron to beasts, from sickness to poison, all vowed to spare him. The gods rejoiced when she returned with their promises. For a time, it seemed that Baldr was truly invincible, and Asgard became light-hearted again. To celebrate, the gods turned his invulnerability into sport. They hurled stones, spears, and arrows at him, each bouncing away harmlessly, and laughed at the marvel of it. Baldr laughed with them, gentle as ever, unaware that the laughter carried a shadow, waiting for its chance to strike. There was one who did not join in their joy. Loki, always watching, always calculating, saw the perfection that surrounded Baldr and felt something colder than envy, resentment. Baldr's light made Loki's darkness sharper, and his laughter sounded like mockery to the trickster's ears. When Loki learned that Frigg had overlooked one small, fragile thing, a sprig of mistletoe, a plan began to coil through his mind like a serpent. Disguised as an old woman, he went to Frigg and spoke softly, asking if all things had sworn to protect her son. Frigg, weary from her efforts and believing the stranger harmless, mentioned that she had not sought an oath from the mistletoe, for it seemed too young, too gentle to pose any threat. Loki smiled beneath the disguise, thanked her for her kindness, and vanished before she could notice the chill left in his wake. Later, as the gods gathered again to test Baldr's invulnerability, Loki approached Baldr's blind brother, Hother. He placed in his hand a slender dart of mistletoe, guiding his aim with words as smooth as honey. "Join in the game," he said. "Show your love for your brother. Throw as the others do." Unknowing, Hother obeyed. The dart flew, light as breath, and struck Baldr in the chest. There was a sound like a sigh, and then silence. The gods froze where they stood. Baldr fell, the laughter dying with him. For the first time in memory, there was no light in Asgard. The grief that followed was immeasurable. Odin stood still as stone, his single eye dim with sorrow. Thor clenched his fists, powerless to strike at an enemy already hidden in shadows. Frigg collapsed to her knees, her cry echoing through every realm. Even the air seemed to mourn, heavy and still. The gods lifted Baldr's body onto his great ship, Ringhorn, and prepared to send him to the sea. None could move the ship until a giantess named Hyrrokin came and set it free. As the flames consumed the vessel, the gods wept, and the sky wept with them. But Frigg's grief did not rest. She begged the gods to send messengers to Hel, the realm of the dead, to plead for Baldr's return. Hermod, brave and swift, rode Odin's eight-legged steed, Sleipnir, down into the darkness. He found Baldr in Hel's hall, still radiant, still kind, though sorrow lingered in his eyes. Hel, the queen of the dead, listened to Hermod's plea and said she would release Baldr if every being in existence wept for him. It seemed an easy task. Who would not mourn the god of light? Word spread across the realms, and everything that lived or breathed or even stood wept for Baldr. Trees dripped sap like tears, stones grew wet with dew, beasts howled, rivers swelled. The whole of creation mourned, all but one. A giantess in a cave, cold and unmoved, refused to cry. Some say she was Loki in disguise. Because of that single refusal, Baldr remained in the underworld, and Asgard's light stayed dim. Odin knew what it meant. Baldr's death was not just tragedy. It was the first step toward Ragnarok. The gods' age of glory had begun to crack. From that day forward, joy in Asgard was shadowed by foreknowledge, the sense that every feast, every victory, every dawn was drawing them closer to the end. And yet, even in death, Baldr's story was not despair. His purity, his light, was destined to return after the final battle, to bring peace to the new world that would rise from the ashes. Baldr's tale is one of beauty and inevitability. He represents everything that is good, and his fall reminds us that goodness alone cannot escape fate. Yet his legacy is hope itself, the belief that light, though extinguished for a time, will always return. In the human heart, that idea never died. It lingers in every sunrise, in every act of forgiveness, in every quiet moment when grief gives way to acceptance. The gods will fall, the world will burn, and time will turn its endless circle. But somewhere, beyond the fire and ruin, Baldr will rise again, radiant and smiling, walking through a new dawn. The light will come back, as it always does, and that, perhaps, is the truest magic of all. Tyr was a god of courage and law, quiet in presence but mighty in principle. Unlike Thor, who wielded strength, or Odin, who wielded knowledge, Tyr wielded honor, and it was a weapon sharper than any sword. He was not loud, nor was he boastful. You would not find him storming into battle with a hammer raised or hurling riddles across the hall. Tyr's power lay in his integrity, the unshakable commitment to what was right, even when it demanded the ultimate sacrifice. He is perhaps best known for the story of Fenrir, the monstrous wolf, born of Loki and the giantess Angrboda. From the moment Fenrir appeared, the gods knew the creature would be dangerous. Its strength grew at an alarming rate, and it would not be contained by ordinary means. The Aesir debated, devised chains, sought clever ways to bind the wolf, and time and again, Fenrir broke free, his power growing with each attempt. And yet, the wolf's heart was cunning and proud, and it sensed the treachery of the gods. Whoever approached him with deception risked losing more than life. They risked their hand, their trust, their very honor. It was Tyr who stepped forward. He alone had the courage to face Fenrir directly, to look into the eyes of the beast and offer trust where none existed. When the gods finally crafted the magical chain, Gleipnir, thin as silk yet stronger than iron, Fenrir immediately suspected a trap. He would not allow any god to bind him unless one dared to place a hand in his mouth as a pledge of good faith. Every god recoiled, yet Tyr did not flinch. He placed his hand within Fenrir's jaws, steady and unafraid, knowing the wolf would bite, knowing that to act otherwise would betray the principle of honor he upheld above all else. Fenrir bit down without hesitation. The magical bonds held, and the wolf was trapped. Tyr's hand was severed in the process, a sacrifice made in service of law and order, of foresight and protection. Where others might see injury or defeat, Tyr's act was triumph. He had upheld justice and honor, proving that true courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. In that moment, the god's safety was ensured, but the cost was deeply personal. Tyr, missing a hand, stood as a symbol of what it truly means to put principle above self. Tyr was also a god of oaths, a keeper of promises. When mortals swore vows, they did so in his name, for he embodied the sacredness of contracts and the consequences of breaking them. To lie in Tyr's presence, to betray an oath, was to invite ruin, for he saw beyond the words into the intentions behind them. Honor for Tyr was the foundation of both divine and mortal worlds. Without it, chaos would reign unchecked, and the delicate balance that Odin, Thor, and the other gods fought to maintain would crumble. Though he was brave, Tyr was not a god of recklessness. He measured his actions, choosing the right moment to intervene, the proper stance to take. He could be fierce in war, yet he did not crave bloodshed for its own sake. He sought fairness, justice, and the enforcement of law. And his presence reminded both gods and mortals that courage is not measured in victories alone, but in standing for what is right, even when all odds are against you. In the stories of Asgard, Tyr is often overshadowed by the thunder of Thor or the cunning of Loki, but his influence runs deeper than most realize. Where others act impulsively or out of desire, Tyr acts out of conscience. He is the hand that steadies, the voice that reminds, the presence that ensures that power is tempered by principle. In a world of gods who can bend the cosmos to their will, Tyr reminds us that restraint, courage, and honor are the true marks of divinity. Even in the looming shadow of Ragnarok, Tyr's courage is unwavering. He will face the forces of chaos with the same calm determination he showed before, unafraid, guided by principle rather than hope or pride. And though his deeds may seem quiet compared to the explosive power of thunder or the cleverness of a trickster, they leave an imprint just as lasting, a reminder that heroism is sometimes found in sacrifice, in integrity, and in the willingness to stand alone when the world demands it. Tyr teaches that strength is not only in muscle or magic, but in moral courage, that justice is not a concept, but an action, that even in a realm of gods and monsters, there is value in keeping one's word, in trusting, in facing danger with honor intact. He is the quiet force that turns chaos into order, the unseen shield that protects the balance of all things. And in his story, we are reminded that the bravest act of all is to do what is right, even when it costs everything. Heimdall stands at the edge of the worlds, a sentinel whose gaze pierces the horizon, whose ears catch the slightest whisper across the 9 realms. He is the guardian of the Bifrost, the shimmering rainbow bridge that connects Asgard to Midgard, and he knows that the safety of gods and mortals alike depends on his vigilance. Where Thor charges into battle and Loki sows chaos, Heimdall waits, ever watchful, the quiet eye that sees all, and the still hand that warns in time. Heimdall was born of 9 mothers, a mystery even among the gods. Some say these mothers were giantesses, others that they were sea spirits. Yet the truth is less important than the gift it gave him: extraordinary perception. He could see hundreds of miles across the lands, hear the grass grow, and sense the faintest movement of the wind. Nothing escapes Heimdall. Nothing can approach Asgard unannounced. To the gods, he is not only a guard, but a guide, a figure who ensures that the balance of power is maintained and that the realms remain safe from those who would exploit weakness. His sword, the shining Hafund, is as much a symbol as it is a weapon. It is said that with a single swing, Heimdall could strike down giants, demons, or any creature that threatens the sanctity of the divine realms. But more often than not, his strength lies not in what he strikes, but in what he prevents. The mere presence of Heimdall is a warning, a reminder that the gods have eyes that miss nothing, and that the consequences of deceit or aggression are swift and inescapable. Heimdall's senses are so acute that he needs little rest. He sleeps little, and even in sleep, he perceives the world. He hears the sea lapping against distant shores, the flutter of wings across the sky, the heartbeat of creatures hiding in the shadows. To him, the realms are a tapestry of sound and movement, and he reads them all as easily as one might read a book. Many gods rely on him to sense danger before it manifests, to notice patterns that others cannot see, and to act as the first line of defense against the chaos that Loki and the giants might unleash. Despite his vigilance, Heimdall is not cold or distant. He is deeply loyal, unwaveringly committed to the Aesir and to the order they maintain. Yet he is a solitary figure, bound by duty and discipline, understanding that his role is not to seek glory or companionship, but to ensure that others can live and thrive. He embodies responsibility in its purest form, the weight of protection carried with absolute certainty, even when no one else notices the effort, even when the cost is loneliness. Heimdall will sound the Gjallarhorn when Ragnarok arrives, the horn whose blast can be heard in every corner of existence. Its call will signal the final battle when gods, giants, and monsters collide and the fate of the cosmos hangs in the balance. He will stand at the forefront, unshaken, knowing that his vigilance has prepared the realms for what is to come. In that moment, he is both alarm and armor, warning and shield, guiding the forces of order into a conflict that will reshape everything. Heimdall teaches that power is not only in striking or ruling, but in perceiving and preventing. That courage is not measured by action alone, but by the willingness to bear responsibility that is unseen and uncelebrated. That duty, maintained quietly and consistently, can alter the course of worlds. In a pantheon of gods who command attention through might, cunning, or brilliance, Heimdall reminds us that true strength can reside in watchfulness, in restraint, and in the steady hand that guards what is precious from the shadows. Even now, when the Bifrost glows faintly under the sky and the realms feel calm, Heimdall does not rest. He listens for the approach of giants, for the stirrings of mischief, for the faint tremor of change. And when the end comes, when the horn sounds and the world burns and gods fall, Heimdall will be there, unwavering and vigilant, the sentinel who stood guard while the universe turned, a reminder that some battles are fought not with fists or fire, but with eyes that see all and hearts that do not waver. Bragi moves through the halls of Asgard carrying not a sword or a hammer, but a harp and a voice that could bend hearts. He is the god of poetry, the patron of skalds, the one who turns words into immortality. While Thor strikes fear into giants and Loki bends reality with mischief, Bragi preserves the memory of gods and men alike, weaving stories that endure long after battles have ended and warriors have fallen. His power lies not in strength or cunning, but in creation, the ability to capture the essence of life, love, and heroism in song and verse. Bragi's hair is said to be golden as sunlight, his beard flowing, and his presence serene, yet commanding. He speaks rarely, but when he does, his words linger, carrying weight beyond their simplicity. In Asgard, his songs echo through the halls, recounting the deeds of gods, the rise and fall of heroes, and the lessons hidden in victory and defeat. Mortals who hear his poetry are said to feel the pulse of history itself, as if the events themselves come alive, reminding them that nothing is truly lost when spoken or sung. He is also a god of eloquence and counsel. When disputes arise, when words fail others, Bragi steps forward with wisdom delivered through rhythm and rhyme. He shows that persuasion and understanding can be as powerful as force, that language itself is a bridge between minds, capable of shaping thought, action, and emotion. In a pantheon often dominated by might, Bragi's artistry teaches that influence and insight can leave a mark that no battle ever could. Bragi's wife, Iddun, complements his power with her gift of youth, guarding the golden apples that sustain the gods. Together, they represent the harmony of vitality and expression, the interplay between life and the stories that preserve it. As long as Bragi sings and Iddun guards her apples, the Aesir remain renewed, their deeds remembered and their strength preserved. Even in the shadow of Ragnarok, Bragi's songs will endure. When worlds burn and the old order collapses, his words will carry memory into the new age, reminding those who survive of courage, wisdom, and love. Poetry, he shows, is not mere entertainment. It is immortality, a way to triumph over death and chaos alike. Through Bragi, we learn that power wears many forms. Not all victories are claimed with weapons. Not all legacies are etched in blood. Some are crafted in silence, in song, in the patient shaping of thought and emotion. In every verse, every story he preserves, Bragi whispers a truth the Aesir hold dear, that the smallest word, spoken with care and purpose, can echo across eternity. Iddun moves through Asgard like a quiet, vital pulse, the keeper of life's renewal and the goddess whose very presence preserves the gods themselves. She is the guardian of the golden apples, small, radiant fruits that grant immortality to the Aesir, ensuring that even time cannot wither their strength or beauty. Where Thor wields thunder and Odin wields wisdom, Iddun wields preservation, a power subtle but absolute, sustaining the very foundation of the divine realm. Her hair gleams like sunlight on a calm morning, and her eyes carry warmth and care. She is gentle yet resolute, aware that the smallest act, a careful tending of her apples, holds the fate of gods in balance. To the Aesir, Iddun is indispensable, though she is often overlooked, for her magic is quiet. It does not thunder across the heavens or strike fear into hearts. Instead, it flows steadily, like a river that never ceases, sustaining life with patience and grace. Iddun's relationship with Bragi, the god of poetry, reflects the harmony she embodies. Where he immortalizes deeds in song, she ensures the singers themselves remain eternal. Together, they represent the intertwined forces of creativity and vitality, reminding the Aesir that stories cannot endure without life, and life is made richer through the remembrance of deeds and virtues. Yet even Iddun has faced peril. Once, Loki tricked her into leaving Asgard, carrying her apples to the giant Thiazi. In her absence, the gods began to age rapidly, their strength fading, their vitality slipping like water through fingers. Asgard's halls grew somber, and the laughter that usually echoed was replaced by worry and confusion. Only through cunning, courage, and persistence was Iddun restored to her rightful place, her apples returned, and the gods rejuvenated. That moment revealed the fragility of even the divine and the importance of vigilance and care in protecting what sustains life. Iddun teaches that true power is often unseen. It is not always in the roar of battle or the brilliance of intellect, but in nurture, in preservation, in quiet acts that make all else possible. She embodies patience, responsibility, and the understanding that sustaining life, whether mortal or divine, is a sacred task. Through her, the Aesir and the stories of their world remain timeless, ever renewed, ever vital. a reminder that even gods rely on the subtle forces that sustain them. Even now, it is said that when the halls of Asgard shimmer with vitality and laughter, Iddun walks among the golden trees, tending her apples, ensuring that time cannot touch those who dwell in the divine realm. Her power may not strike the eye, but it strikes the heart, the quiet, enduring force that makes immortality possible, and reminds all who witness her care that life itself is a gift worth guarding. Forseti moves through the halls of justice with a calm and measured presence, the embodiment of fairness and reconciliation among the gods. Where Thor brings strength, Tyr brings honor, and Loki brings chaos, Forseti brings balance. He is the god of law, mediation, and truth, and his wisdom ensures that disputes among gods, and sometimes mortals, are settled with clarity rather than conflict. His voice carries the weight of reason, gentle yet undeniable, guiding tempers and hearts toward resolution. The beauty of Forseti lies in his impartiality. He does not favor the powerful over the weak, nor the clever over the honest. Every dispute, no matter how large or small, is weighed with precision, every argument examined with care. It is said that when Forseti presides over a quarrel, both parties leave the hall feeling understood and judged rightly. A rare gift in a world often dominated by brute force or trickery. His judgment is not swift in action, but enduring in fairness, and it is this patience that makes him respected by gods and mortals alike. His throne, shining and austere, reflects his nature, radiant in virtue yet unadorned by arrogance. To sit before Forseti is to feel the calm certainty of order. He listens with attention, asks questions that pierce to the heart of the matter, and guides those in conflict to see beyond pride and anger, to understand the perspectives of others. In this way, he is more than a god. He is the living embodiment of law itself, a reminder that balance and fairness can shape worlds as surely as strength or cunning. Even among the Aesir, Forseti's counsel is invaluable. Disputes that might erupt into violence find resolution under his mediation. Treaties between gods and giants, agreements among mortals, even arguments among the clever Loki's schemes. Forseti's wisdom threads a needle through chaos, creating harmony where it seems impossible. He shows that justice is not only the domain of the strong, but the careful and deliberate, those who measure action with thought and fairness. Forseti teaches that true power is tempered by reason, that strength without justice is hollow, and that wisdom without fairness is fleeting. In a pantheon filled with gods who strike, deceive, or govern with will alone, he reminds both gods and mortals that balance is a force of its own, a quiet authority that shapes destinies without fanfare. Even in the shadows of Ragnarok, when the world trembles and the end draws near, Forseti's presence remains a symbol of what order and reason can achieve. He may not wield thunder or trick the unwary, but his legacy endures in every act of reconciliation, every honest judgment, and every attempt to bridge divides. He is the unseen hand of fairness, the voice of conscience, and a testament to the power of peace in a universe governed as much by conflict as by courage. As the tales of the Aesir unfold, a pattern emerges, a tapestry of power, wisdom, courage, mischief, and compassion, each thread woven with purpose. From Odin, the relentless seeker of knowledge, to Thor, the thunderous protector. From Loki, the unpredictable trickster, to Frigg, the quiet keeper of hearts and fate. From Baldr, the radiant symbol of purity, to Tyr, the embodiment of honor. From Heimdall, the vigilant sentinel, to Bragi, the poet who preserves memory, and Iddun, the sustainer of life itself. Each god contributes to the delicate balance that holds the 9 realms together. Even Forseti, with his calm and unwavering justice, reminds us that law and fairness are forces as essential as strength and cunning. The Aesir are more than a collection of powerful beings. They are reflections of the human experience, magnified and immortal. They teach us that wisdom carries responsibility, that courage sometimes demands sacrifice, that mischief can inspire both chaos and growth, and that love and patience often outlast brute force. Through their stories, we witness the interplay of light and shadow, the inevitability of fate, and the resilience required to navigate a world that is never static. Even in the shadow of Ragnarok, the final battle that will reshape existence, the lessons of the Aesir endure. Their lives, choices, triumphs, and failures remind us that the struggles of gods are not so different from our own. The pursuit of knowledge, the defense of what we love, the navigation of betrayal, the honoring of promises, and the creation and preservation of beauty and life. They show us that strength is multifaceted, that power without compassion is hollow, and that even in the face of destruction, hope and courage persist. To tell their stories is to keep them alive, to pass their lessons forward like a torch through the ages. The thunder of Thor, the wisdom of Odin, the cunning of Loki, the devotion of Frigg, the light of Baldr, the honor of Tyr, the vigilance of Heimdall, the voice of Bragi, the life-giving care of Iddun, and the fairness of Forseti. They all speak across time, reminding us that even gods are bound by choice, duty, and consequence, and that their stories endure because they mirror our own struggles, desires, and triumphs. In the end, the Aesir teach us that the world is vast, the challenges many, and the threads of fate intricate and interwoven. Yet within that complexity lies meaning. Whether through wisdom, strength, poetry, vigilance, or love, each action ripples through the cosmos, shaping destiny. And as we listen to these stories, we recognize something profound, that the essence of the Aesir is not confined to distant halls of gods, but lives within every heart that seeks knowledge. Acts with courage, laughs with mischief, protects with devotion, and strives for fairness in a world that is never simple. Their legacy is eternal, not in conquest, not in fear, but in the enduring power of choice, the resonance of deeds, and the stories that survive the ages. And so, as the Nine Realms continue to turn, the echoes of the Aesir remain, guiding, teaching, and inspiring all who hear them, reminding us that even in chaos, there is order, even in darkness, there is light, and even in mortality, the spirit of the gods lives on.